They remind me of like an old Italian team where they're not here to impress you.
Mm-hmm.
They're just here to win. You like the way they play? Good. You don't like the way they play? Good. They don't really care. They play for themselves and they play what they know is going to give them the best chance to win.
She started off as, I think, like a 10, 20-minute player for Portland her first few years. She gets traded over to Gotham this year, and she's electric. Sometimes players need those years to grow, but I think she's going to be so dangerous with Esther and with Lynn Williams and Purse for a lot of years to come. I'm so pissed at myself. I didn't think he'd play either. There was like a $68 ticket in the nosebleeds, and I passed up on it.
How Iverson changed the NBA. David Beckham did that for soccer. He made it like a cultural, everything was cool about it. What kind of music do you listen to? What kind of style, fashion?
Welcome back into Straight from the Pitch, joined as always by Scotty Schweitzer. I'm Anna Witte. We are coming off a very fun NWSL weekend. We had 2 quarterfinal matches, and we couldn't pass up this week because there was too much fun action to talk about. So we're going to start with it all. We'll start with Friday's match because it was Angel City against OL Reign in Seattle. OL Reign and Angel City kind of battled back and forth. I think Angel City took a little bit more of the first half. OL Reign dominated the second half. In the first half, Angel City had 3 shots inside the box, where the Reign had 4 shots inside the box in the second half. I know numbers aren't always something you can look at in soccer, but I think those stats in particular were the most indicative of how that match played out. It was an 87th minute goal from Veronica Latsko, who I've enjoyed watching in this system all season long. But Scotty, what'd you think of this match? It definitely was back and forth, and the second half was extremely exciting. How did you think OL Reign was able to kind of overcome what Angel City threw at them?
I think OL Reign, and they've been doing it all year, is they got a kind of a real veteran kind of led team, and they believe in the way they play. It's not the prettiest soccer. It's it usually isn't the most enthralling, and you're excited to watch it. This year, it's kind of they do what they do. They're kind of old school, but they defend well. They like their system. They know their roles. And I think that's just the way they've been winning games this year. I personally, watching this game, I thought Angel City, if they won, I thought they deserved to win. And if Seattle won, I thought they deserved to win. It was one of those games. It was a true playoff game. It reminded me of college basketball or professional playoff basketball where teams would get on runs and they would dominate parts of the game. And then you take the pressure, you handle it. And then you go on your run. And I thought it was really good back to back. It was a good fight. It was a good battle. It was, hard tackles. It was exciting. And I'm not surprised that Seattle won. I would have rathered Angel City go through. I just think that Brandon soccer is a little bit more fun to watch, more free flowing than Seattle's. But Seattle does what they do, and they're okay with it. They remind me of like an old Italian team where they're not here to impress you.
Mm-hmm.
They're just here to win. You like the way they play? Good. You don't like the way they play? Good. They don't really care. They play for themselves, and they play what they know is going to give them the best chance to win. Whether you like the way it transpires on the field or not, they don't really care about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think Angel City has had better games of late. But for OL Reign, I think the Megan Rapinoe, this being her last season, gives everybody on the team that extra oomph to want to perform. Rose Lavelle seems to be coming back into the fold a little bit quicker, subbed onto the pitch for Quinn in the 64th minute. But the biggest thing that stood out to me for OL Reign in particular is their changing up of the back line. They took Sam Hyde off the pitch in the last handful amount of matches, and it's been Phoebe McClernand on the left. You have Barnes shifting into a center back role next to Alana Cook. And then you obviously have Sophia Huerta on the right side, continuing to do the whole crossing thing and getting forward, etc. What have you thought of Phoebe McClernand? I thought she was excellent at UVA. Then she goes to Orlando in her rookie season, is extremely consistent. And let's be honest, a club that's really difficult of past years, not underneath Seb Hines. I think he's done a really good job changing around the culture. But when Phoebe went to the Pride, it was definitely a difficult club to be a part of as a rookie. How have you seen her take on this role of late that she didn't have the firsthand few amount of matches to kind of get into the swing of things?
Yeah, I feel like the move has made their whole back line more disciplined
Yeah.
and a little bit cleaner defending. That's what I thought was going to be the problem for OL was that they give up weak goals here and there, and if that happens in the playoffs, it kills momentum, it builds momentum, it puts you behind the eight ball. You chase the game. You don't want to chase the game in any game, but definitely not a playoff game. So I think her move into the back line has actually gave them it solidified them and gave them more organization, and they're more disciplined in the way they defend. And I thought that was the biggest surprising thing watching this playoff game is how much more disciplined they were than the regular season in the back line. I also thought Rapinoe knows it's over because that's the hardest she's played in like 3 years.
Yeah, right.
Like I wish she would have played like that more at the World Cup. She's like she went out there knowing the only thing she controls is effort. Whereas sometimes I think she goes out there and thinks my skill will take over this game, and then you don't have the effort. And she hasn't been good in the previous games building up to this one. But this one, she was out there, man. She was moving, and I think that helps the back line too because it presses their team a little further back because now if you're leaving Rapinoe, she is so dangerously technical and can do things single-handedly that you're not allowed to press up the field on that side either. And then on the other side, you got Huerta running the line. So if you get caught, she'll look to come forward. I just thought that's the best I've thought Seattle played all year, to be honest, of the games that I've seen. And I've watched a few of them. They just seemed like they had a little bit more desire and hunger, and they know, man, this is it. And it's not just it. This is it for someone who's meant so much to the game, and we can have a good sending off for her. But like Fishlock got a couple injuries, I thought, was it cramping? Was it tightness? But you could see they just didn't want to come off the field, and they wanted to battle, and they knew this is going to be the last chance we get maybe, so let's give it everything we got.
No, I completely agree. I think the middle third of the season was really difficult for OL Reign. Like they couldn't score goals. They were dropping Balser off into that 10 role. They were trying to figure out how they were going to play some of these forwards next to Haitama. And I think it finally came to be. I think it's odd though because Sam Hyde's a good defender. Arguably, I think she's better than Cook within that defense and within that system. Like Cook has been the player throughout the year who made some of the questionable mistakes, and it wasn't Hyatt. And Hyatt's on the bench. So the question is she injured? Like I understand the shifting Barnes into that center back role. And I guess now I'm thinking about it. Maybe it's Cook and it's Barnes that work better together and not Hyatt and Barnes that work well together. But I thought that was a very uncharacteristic thing for Harvey to do, is to take a player like Hyatt off the pitch, who's played within that system and started all season long, was consistent last year, and then to change things up towards the very end of the season where, things aren't looking good in the past and they really need results now.
My thing is, and I almost wish like that I knew her, is it's hard for me to take Cook off the field. She makes tons of mental errors. I totally agree. But what she has as ability, athleticism, and like even her cleanliness on the ball, when she's on her game, man, she's like unstoppable, offensively and defensively. Cook, and that's a couple shows ago. I think I said, if she has the mental fortitude to become a superstar, is she's the one, I think, because she's just has God-given talents that you just can't teach. You just can't teach it. You just you can't simulate it anywhere else. Like, so she has these things. Sometimes I think she's very nonchalant. So
Yeah.
maybe that's kind of goes into the play. Maybe it's just the way that two players fit together. Maybe it's her thinking, hey, I can't be nonchalant today because I have a player that hasn't been out. I don't know what the reasoning is. For me, though, it's like I will always be trying to find her a spot on the field just because of potential, basically. And then, down the road, I might have to be like, well, man, I wish this experiment didn't work and I wish it would have. But like, you're going to be late into games. She's like that number one pick in the NFL quarterback that just keeps getting chances and chances
Yes.
because they were number one for a reason, whether it was their athleticism, their arm strength, the size of them, like I remember somebody getting drafted out of state. It was a baseball player. And I was like, man, he doesn't really even play for us. And they were like, yeah, but he's a bona fide specimen that makes it in and I think the NFL used to do it. If you were this size as an offensive lineman, they picked you. If you ran this as a defensive back or a wide receiver, the 40 that you got picked high. It was just based nothing on actual could he catch the ball. It was he runs a 440. We gotta take him. Like we
Right.
gotta kind of a thing. So like I think Cook has some of those intangibles where you're like, man, if it ever just totally clicks, holy moly, this is going to be a special, special player because we see spurts of it. Like we see her passing, we see her dribble, we see her defending. And then we see him on the other extreme too, where she's like, well, how can you make that play? And then 40 minutes later, you make the complete opposite end of the spectrum play, like, because you're just not mentally. But I think part of that is she's just so gifted. Sometimes she thinks it's going to be easier than what it really should be.
Can we talk about the players who get the chances over and over again compared to the players who don't? I want to go there real quick because the 49ers played the Vikings on Monday night. I was watching the pregame show. Everyone who's a fan of sports knows Alex Smith, the former quarterback within the NFL. He was the Kansas City Chief quarterback. That was where he was drafted number 1. Went through that whole leg traumatic injury when he was a quarterback with the Commanders. Awful, disgusting. But he's having a thriving career at ESPN, so you can't feel that bad for the guy. Anyway, so Brock Purdy got interviewed by Alex Smith, and leading into that interview, Smith was like, I was a former number 1 quarterback going into the NFL. I got opportunity after opportunity to make mistakes, to try new things. And then Brock Purdy comes along. He's Mr. Irrelevant in the NFL, gets drafted last to the 49ers, and Trey Lance gets injured, the quarterback for the 49ers. Brock Purdy, I think at the time he was a 3rd string quarterback, and he lit the NFL on fire. He hadn't lost as a starting quarterback. Brock Purdy's like a great example of a player who can take the small opportunities and the small windows that they get and make the most out of it. But that's such a small pool of people. Like most people need a few games to just figure out what it's like playing at the next level, getting used to the players around them, where Alana Cook to me is an Alex Smith. She gets opportunity after opportunity to make mistakes, to do things because it's excused. She was, a high draft pick. She's probably getting paid well. She's playing on this national team. We need her on the starting pitch to make the United States and to make the NWSL look good. Where off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of a good example. Scott, if you have one, throw it out there. But there's players, maybe Delaney Sheehan for Gotham. She had the first goal this past weekend. Had only played in a handful of minutes where she got drafted to Gotham, wasn't consistent. And then this past year, she's really taken over that starting role and has gotten Gotham to the semifinals for the first time. I just think it's such an interesting thing to look at, especially in soccer. Like these players who get opportunity after opportunity. And then it's like, when are we done? Like, I'm not saying Alana Cook is necessarily like done, but when are we done giving some of these players the chances,
I think there's a lot that plays into it. I mean, a lot too. But like as a pro level, you're right. Like certain people are getting, and I one time I did it my own contracts. A couple times I did my own contracts in soccer, and
Mm-hmm.
I was doing one earlier in my career, and I had already had an agent, and then I learned from him. So I was doing my own, but I was in the negotiations, and the guy said to me, the GM said, I'm not giving you a contract based on potential. Now, I had been in the league like 5 years. Or that's what he said. I don't give contracts based on potential. And I said, actually, that's exactly what a contract is. And he was like, yeah, but you've been an all-star for 3 years, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, but you don't know if I'm going to be good next year. You don't know if I'm going to break my leg and then come back and never be the same player. So like contracts going forward are all based on potential. Just some of them contracts are you have a little bit more to go on. So your guessing is a little bit clearer going forward in a sense.
Yeah.
So these quarterbacks come in like the Bears quarterback Justin Fields when he's healthy is going to
Bless
go
him.
back to be the starter. He's going to be the starter
Mm-hmm.
again because he's big, he's fast. We spent money, even though we're paying both of them and they're both on rookie contracts.
He's a
His is
Buckeye,
bigger.
right? They give Buckeyes chances.
And I think that has to do with it too, of where it comes from. And that's why I was saying it comes like there's like so many things. I think there would be a lot more Brock Purdy's in all sports if when they're younger, we were picking teams also based on individuals' character. Because like I'll see it at the youth level, like here's a big fast forward that keeps making the top team, girl or boy, at the club level. Not a great soccer player. Here's a small kid, tiny little guy who the only way he can compete is working harder than them, becoming smarter than them, working on his technical, becoming this great player of soccer, and we don't pick that player. So that player eventually is like, well, what's the point?
Mhm.
Changes sport, stops doing it, stops paying the huge price tag for youth soccer, goes somewhere else, and we lose this great, great soccer player. So now we're also stuck with at the pro level and the higher up level is all these kids who've never had to work to earn their spot because it was constantly given to them at the youth level. Listen, I don't think the portal's a good thing in college sports.
Agreed.
But there's a reason it's so big too. Once I'm not guaranteed my starting position at a college anymore, I jump into portal. Like there's even some players who didn't get to pick to go to their school they wanted to, so they pick a smaller school where they know they'll dominate for 1 year and go in the portal like they're free agents. It's like that. Like that's what's happening to sports. We cause it at the youth level, and it keeps going forward to the college level. Then it goes into the pro level. Like I think, like how many good center backs are there, and not the ones that are already in the league in a sense, like
Mhm.
the ones coming up, like because like you were saying, and I always forget her name, the Portland center back. I think she's a great center back.
Hubley or,
Um,
Mingus?
Hubley. I think Hubley is a great center back. Now, for her to become better, granted she's at Portland, she needs to be playing in bigger games. She needs to get a look at a national team. I was just talking to a dad the other day whose daughter's in the national team pool and a real, real good player. And I was like, well, why didn't they call her up for the 19s or call her up for the 21s or whatever? And I said, even if I'm not going to play you because you're 17, 15, whatever the age is, I want you to see it because great players that we feel are going to become great are super honest with themselves.
Mhm.
And they would walk into that environment and say, oh man, I am not as good as I thought I was. I am good for my age. But if I want to make it to here, I got to do this. Like the national team, the men played last week and they did terrible against Germany, great against Ghana. I think Gio's found his spot. And if Berhalter gets in the way, we need to fire him. But there was an interview with Aronson,
Mhm.
and the guy said to him, if you could go back and tell your younger self any advice, what would it be? And here is a national team player, plays in Europe, played in the MLS, made it all the way through. And he said, I would tell him, whatever you're doing and you think it's enough, it's nowhere near enough. And I think like we get these players, like I train players that are on the Courage or the academy teams here, and they're like, they train with me once a week and then they train with their team. Like I was training constantly, 3 hours a day on my own, hour and a half, 2 hours with my team. I would play on a different team. Like there was so much to be done to get better.
Yeah.
I don't think we do that anymore. Like people just play with their team and that's it. They don't train on their own.
I, completely agree with that, and for the young people who are also listening to this too, I also think there's an element to, like, that's okay. If you wanna play, obviously, like, at the level to go collegiately, but recognizing, like, how much do you actually love soccer? Do you also wanna be, I don't know, like, doing something else, drawing? Are you into painting? Is there something else you wanna do? I also think, like, my experience as a kid growing up in Castle and just, it was very competitive when I was young, and I'm sure it still is. Like, I always felt like I always had to be doing it, where there was times I didn't want to. And, like, honestly, Anna, like, that's okay. This is what I wanted to be doing eventually. Like, on the side, I should have been pursuing broadcasting or going to football games on a Friday night and sidelining games and doing that. Like, I look back on my time, like, obviously I love soccer and I loved playing it, but this is what I want to do too. And I think if more people were a little bit more in tune, I know that's so hard to do at the youth level, but a little bit more in tune and, like, what is it that you really want? Because you're spending a lot of your parents' money. Like, if you don't want to train all the time, take a step back. Like, you don't have to figure it out by 18.
I,
What do you think?
I, I think the key to what you're saying is you did love it back then.
Yeah.
And you still love it now. You just love it in a different way. I think there's a lot of kids who don't love the game, but their friends played, they play, their parents might show them the game, and they're like, look at Messi's Miami house, look at Messi's car, and they're more intrigued by what they can get from it than that they actually love it. Like you see it like I watch it all the time in sports, is like, what's going on? James Harden, and nobody made you sign that contract. I don't care if he lied to you. You signed a contract. Now live up to it. And you live up to it and you play it like because you love it.
Mhm.
Because like I never played soccer thinking how much money can I make? I don't coach soccer thinking how much I can't help it. I love it.
Yeah.
Like we weren't doing the podcast because we were so busy. Like I missed it because it's talking about soccer. It's talking about the thing I love second most in the world to my family. Like,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of people just like, then they go to the train and you're like, and that's the other thing. You got kids that love the sport training or pros that love it, and then you got teammates that don't. So like I can't get as good as I possibly can get without your best effort against me in trainings,
Yeah.
against me in the drill. Like, and that's where there's the I don't remember when I was playing anyone playing that didn't love it like I did. Like everybody was loving it. Like here you got 16,000 kids at the one club.
Not
16,000
everyone's
kids.
gonna love it.
But not everyone loves it. And that's okay. You have the rec, you have the challenge. But everyone's like, oh, I got to play. A lot of parents, your kids are trophies to you, which is ridiculous. Oh, I got to make the classic team. Oh, I got to make the top team. Oh, man, put them where they're learning and they love being there.
Yeah,
And they'll grow at their pace. It's like not everybody grows at the same pace. Like,
I know.
and that's like, and you see it because then we get pros that don't really love it. They love the clothes they get from it. They love their social media. Like they all think they're the Kardashians. It's like I know me personally. I don't have social media now. My wife does it for the show and everything.
Mhm.
But like to me, it's like I would never be on social media. I don't care what the fans think of me in a sense. Like I know people are gonna like me and I know people are gonna hate me. Listen, I went to NC State and I'm a New York Knicks fan. I will never say Michael Jordan's the best player in the world because he went to Chapel Hill and he killed my Knicks. Like I don't like him. I don't like him. I
Yeah.
don't know what. And that's just that's not saying he wasn't a good basketball player, but like people are gonna hate Michael Jordan. People are gonna love Michael Jordan. Like that's sports. That's the way it goes. That's what we get. And that's part of what I love about it. Like
Well,
you don't like me, but you don't want to play against me.
you made a good point about the professional because I remember I played 2.5 years of collegiate soccer. And in the middle of my junior year, I knew that I wanted to be in this business in some capacity. And it's just as competitive sports. And I knew I had to start doing things that soccer was kind of taking my schedule to be able to do to get the first job, to get the internships, etc. And I remember when I quit and I, was still hanging out with friends who play different sports, whatever. And a lot of people were like, man, I wish I could quit baseball, football, whatever, because it's not what I love anymore, but I have to do it. And I feel, like I still have to do that. I will never ever forget some of those comments that people made. And to me, it was a hard decision, but it was obvious. Like I wasn't passionate about playing anymore. I wanted to pursue what I'm doing now. And when you make that comment about professional sports, playing sports, a person like Harden, he can quit and like make a business or go after something he's passionate about. He's got a ton of cash to do it. So yeah, we got a little topic there, but I still think it's important to kind of talk about like the relevance and all this stuff that gets thrown into sports and to kind of make those
Correct.
connections with other teams too.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I would like to meet Alana Cook, and like, there's nothing you
Yeah.
meet her like as a coach. Like, I can't change her. She is got this is her journey. This is how she's won. These are coaches she's had. Like, like we were just saying, I coach youth soccer academy, next level academy, and we have like a little bit over 400 kids in the program. And we're young. We're U7 to U12 with a couple auxiliary programs. And a lot of these kids have no idea what they want. So when they come into our building, I know that they don't all want to be pro soccer players. Now, I coach it. I'm sure many of the parents think, man, this guy's hard on my. But I'm coaching based on creating habits. So, like when you were saying you left after your junior year, you have tons of habits that you built from soccer, from how hard you worked for your teammates, and then you bring them into this new environment, and then you spin them and use them the way the new environment means. But you like have like for me, I have tons of things I've learned about life through what I've gone through on the soccer field in
Mhm.
trainings with my teammates, how to get along together, how to have conflicts and then resolve them the right way and then play against teams and compete. And like life is a competition, no matter what business you're in. But I think we lose that teaching that. And then when they come through, like you see it in every sport. You got the Hardens, we got Jordan Sancho. Like there's tons of players that like, well, I'm not playing. I'm not coming into camp. I don't agree with you. Like I don't ever remember that happening when I was going through the pro ranks. Like I'm not happy with my contract, but I signed it. I got
Yeah.
to deal with it. When my contract's up, I'll take care of it. But like no one ever did anything to really hurt the team that they were on. But they might not have been happy. There's a lot of players that when you're not playing, you're not happy. That's just the way things go. And I just see like now is like it's not my fault. It's the coach's fault. It's not my fault. It's the player's fault. It's never my own personal fault. Like, is there more you can do? Is there more you could have done? Is there more you should be doing? Should you be adapting your game to a different way? And I think
Yeah.
as pros, we've lost that a lot because when we started saying, "Oh, the NBA is a business, the NFL is a business, soccer is a business," the players themselves started treating it like a business. Like I never ever feel like I'm going to work when I go to coach. I never ever felt like I was going to work when I played. I was doing something. I was an artist. I was being creative. This is what I wanted to do. This is what I wanted to be the master of my own craft. I wanted to keep learning. I still want to keep learning. And I think we've lost that with players, and not all of them, but there's the percentage is bigger that the players don't do that than the players that do that. And that hurts the players that do that because we grow together
Yeah.
as we're learning the game.
Totally. I completely agree. One more comment before we kind of touch on Angel City and put a bow on this OL Reign Angel City game. We were talking about Brock Purdy. And in that interview, one of my favorite things was Smith asked him about being Mr. Irrelevant. And does he feel like he needs to prove the haters wrong? Like that's what he's doing. And Brock was like, no, I don't really care about what other people think or say. I'm here to win for my team and I'm here to be successful and be the best that I can be. Perfect answer. And that's why I'm a Brock Purdy fan, always and forever. I just love an underdog story, Scotty. Like, I just think it's great.
I last year, I'm a Bears fan, and last year I started cheering for San Fran when they made the McCaffrey deal
Yeah.
and brought McCaffrey. I'm
Crazy.
always for teams trying to just win and win all the time and win everything. But I watched the game last night too, and one of the things that stood out for me, and when now I look back in my head, is when San Fran got taken over by Shanahan and what's the Lynch is the
Yeah.
GM, right?
John Lynch. Yeah.
They didn't just pick players based on their ability.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about character.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted these guys that they could build something to then pass on to the next group, to the next group. And when you watch San Fran, like, I don't think San Fran's going to be bad. Oh, they lost another quarterback. They're still going to win. Oh, they lost another quarter. They're still. Oh, that's Jimmy Garoppolo. It's that they just seem like they don't just pick anybody. They has to have the right character, has to have the right frame of mind, has to want to be there, for everybody. And like I just when I look at that team, that's Debo Samuel, Frank Warner, like
Yeah.
just some of the guys they have. You're like, man, these are professionals.
Mm-hmm.
These are pros that love what they do and love to do it for each other. And last night when they lost, like they didn't blame anybody. They blamed themselves. It just wasn't good enough. We got to be doing better. And we got to figure out a way. We're in that slump. We all go in a slump. This is on us. Like I just thought it was so professional how they handle everything.
Oh, I completely agree. I love what they've done, and they were talking about that on the broadcast. I'm pretty sure, like just how
Yeah. That's
professionally
what
they've changed everything for the 49ers because it was pretty bad, especially when I was a kid. I hope the Steelers can take a chapter out of that book because I don't know how we're still getting wins. That win against the Rams this weekend for us was insane. Like you can't challenge a play after the 2 minute whatever it's called. I love it for us, but also concerning for the future. Anywho, let's move on to Angel City because it's unfortunate that the season's over. I would have loved to see them make it to the semifinals. However, if Becky Tweed is not the head coach next season, I will be very disappointed. I think what she was able to do there, halfway through the season to turn things around, to make changes. I would love to see what Tweed would do with the draft, how she would handle the expansion draft, and how she would use some of the talent that she has on the pitch right now. Because I believe some of her talent's going to be taken away, just like every other team in the NWSL. But I think this club was, or these individuals were really special together. And I think they had a great latter half of the season, like I said, but they just couldn't pull it out towards the end.
I agree. I think Becky Tweed. Here's my one negative. I think she should have made changes a little bit earlier in this game.
Okay.
I just that's
That's
coming
fair.
after. That's just coming, and that's also after I know the result and I saw. I just think she had too many players on the bench, and that's not even saying anyone was really doing bad on the field, but she had explosive players, whether that's Endo with her passing or
Yeah.
whether that's Thompson. I just think those girls should have came in a little bit earlier um, to just change the dynamic of the game and see if you could push it into your. And if you lose, you lose, and I understand nobody wants to lose. So that's my one negative about her going forward.
Yeah.
I think it's between her and Sean Nahas for Coach of the Year. I really do. I really think it's the only problem that she's only got 10 or something, 14. She got half a season, and that might be the only thing that deters her. But as far as the year goes, I think those were the two coaches that surprised us the most and got the most out of what they had. Um, during the season. Yeah, so like those would be like she's up for it, and which is funny because they both lost the quarters. But I thought that she like what she did and how she made that team. That team looked very disorganized, and everyone was on like their own little path. And then she kind of just brought it all together, and it looks like they care more about each other. You know, we're talking more about what's going on the field than we do what's going on in the front office. And that in the beginning, like that's all we were talking about is front office stuff with them. We weren't really ever talking about the field. But she's also then taken players who are good players and made them holy moly. Like we got the outside backs up on the national team. I think Sarah Gordon needs a look at the national team to see how she fits in. Maybe she doesn't fit. Maybe she does. But like that's like for me, I'm looking at her based on potential too. And Sarah Gordon probably should be comeback player of the year, sitting out all of last year, and then
Yeah.
she plays every minute of every game this year for him. But she's a player like, all right, Alana Cook, you got one more chance. And if you don't, we're bringing in
Yes.
basically the same athlete as you. Now, she's way
But
more
she's
disciplined in
consistent.
the game. Yeah, because she's mentally stronger than Cook is. I don't know if she's as technically clean as Cook, but because she's mentally stronger, it doesn't show that she's not either.
Yeah.
I think she's taken players and like really made them better than what they were under past coaching staffs.
Completely agree. I mean, you look at, I think Madison Hammond's a good example of that as well in the six. She's kind of come into her own and they've given her that space to make mistakes, but to get better and to excel in training and to be able to put that out on the pitch. So unfortunate for Angel City, but it's only their second year. And for them to make the playoffs in their second year underneath a new head coach and having all the things that they've had to go through and overcome is, I think, a good sign for the future. So if you're an Angel City fan like Scotty, you've got great things ahead. So OL Reign will travel to San Diego on Sunday, November 5th. Not this Sunday, the Sunday after. It's a 9:30 p.m. Eastern time kick. What we don't need to preview this one too much because we have next week to talk about it as well. But OL Reign's going to get, a rest. So there's not going to be those tired legs that maybe you could kind of say there would be if they were playing this weekend. San Diego, I think Jaden Shaw is a very dangerous forward. I think Alex Morgan always kind of brings a threat. At least she brings attention to a back line, especially OL Reign playing with a set of like new defenders to an extent. How do you see OL Reign going to San Diego and potentially getting a result, or how do you see this team matching up against each other?
I think it's going to be similar to what we just saw. San Diego likes to be on the forefront. They like to be going forward. They like to be controlling the tempo. Seattle's okay with not doing it. I think Lavelle now, we've seen her run. We've seen her move. She's going to get another 2 weeks of rest. She's not in this camp, so she's going to be able to get healthy. If
Yeah, the
she's on the
camp.
field, she brings attention to that position, and then are people going to be drawn out? I think Seattle's going to go in there and be like, this is what we do. We're going to do the same thing we always do. They'll sit if they have to. They'll counter press. They'll do things like that. But they're not going to change their game. I'll say this going in, and I know we're going to talk about them, but if I'm any of these teams, I'm real happy. I think I can win on the road. I think I can win at home. I think, you know what I mean? Like, I've been in playoff games where like, man, I can't believe we got to play these guys. This is going to be hard. We were probably not going to win this. But like these four teams, I think they all got to think we're the favorite
Yeah.
and we're okay with being the underdog. but they all got to think they can beat whoever they play against.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and I don't want to dive too much into these friendlies coming up. The U.S. will play Colombia on Thursday and Sunday night, and there's a good list of new players coming in. Something Scotty and I have called for of late, and maybe that's something we can dive into next week. But just for the time of the show, don't want to dive in too much. That'll be an interesting factor too, like the players who go into that camp. How much are they playing if they are in these final games in the NWSL? How much of an effort are they going to give? Because you don't want to get injured. Like, you lost the World Cup. This is where I think a lot of players are kind of looking to redeem themselves with an NWSL championship. So I think these two games against Colombia, even though they're just friendlies, they're still not a new head coach for the national team. So they're still trying to figure that piece out. Like, what is the caution going to be from some of these players who are, now in these final few games?
Yeah, I would think you'd better not go in with caution, in a sense. The players that were on the team showed terrible at the World Cup.
Yeah.
The players that are coming in that are new got to feel like, hey, spots are available. So I would think it's going to be now. The only thing, in a sense, going forward, we could cautious is that there's not a head coach there. There's not a new coach in place. So like, who's does it matter? Does this coach come in and change the whole staff? Does the staff say, oh, these players didn't try because they had their NWSL blah 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 season kind of a thing still going? But I would think like if it was a true camp and there was no playoffs, man, it would be a battle in there. Like trainings would be the hardest thing. Yeah, we're gonna try to show in the game, of course, and that's easy. But like, I'm gonna try to win my spot. If I'm Coffee, I'm trying to take that spot from Sullivan, and I'm gonna take it in practice. I'm gonna prove it in practice. Like, whereas Sullivan's out, she didn't make the playoffs. She
Mhm.
can go a little harder. Coffee might be like, there's a lot that plays
And
into
May
this camp.
Vignola, like, this is
Right.
her
There's a
time to
lot
shine.
that's like, playing into this camp that to me is like, if I'm a player coming in like Vignola, like, man, they no one showed good at the outside back. Really, I could take that spot. I could do that. If I take Dunn's spot, Dunn can move up into the midfield, take that spot. Like, so I got to go into this camp if I'm a new player thinking one of these spots can be mine. And now I'm going to go earn it.
Yeah.
I'm going to earn it through trainings and I'm going to earn it through the game.
I think this is where Casey Kruger, Tierna Davidson could come in and just crush it. Chicago's out. This is their time to really shine and kind of work for themselves now. And then, I mean, you touch on Sam Coffey. They're still in the playoffs. Savannah DeMello, she did not perform too well at the World Cup, but that's not, to me, that's not a huge fault of hers. It was kind of a product of everything that was happening throughout the World Cup. And yeah, I mean, you look at the rest of the roster: Jaden Shaw, Alyssa Thompson, Mia Fishel coming in, Ashley Hatch being there. They're now knocked out. Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit of individual play and also players kind of trying to figure out how they can do both. But that'll be something we'll be watching Thursday and Sunday night. North Carolina Courage against Gotham was the second quarterfinal match Sunday evening. Gotham wins this one 2-0. It was a 45th minute goal from Delaney Sheehan and a 91st minute goal from Yasmin Ryan. Passing numbers were kind of the same. North Carolina did not dominate in the style that we've seen them dominate in past. And I think that's what allowed Gotham to get a little bit more momentum underneath themselves. And Gotham outshot this Courage side 13-6. So Gotham to me was on the front foot a little bit more. I thought North Carolina relied a little too heavy on the right side of the field with Ryan Williams to Tyler Lucy, and Lucy led North Carolina in shots. It was a little bit too predictable to me from this Courage side. Wasn't what we've seen of late, even though the last handful of games weren't great. But you know what I mean? Like the middle of the season was great from the Courage. And yeah, predictability is kind of what the Courage fell into, and Gotham took full advantage of what we said, the back line. Whichever team could exploit the back line would win this one, and Gotham did it.
Yeah, this is another game like this is exactly how I thought it was gonna go. It
Yeah.
really was. And then when you put in the factor that there was no Caroline,
Mm.
even though she's not really the focal point of the passing, is the focal point that allows the passing to be established. Like you just can't lose her. So you can't pull over and shift too hard. And like sometimes we can cheat in the game and like, okay, I'm going to leave. This is the least dangerous player on the field. So we're going to leave her. We're going to give her extra 10, 15 yards because we'll make it up. But when you do that to Caroline, she then takes you on and she can break down things individually. Without her, the courage is just, it's not that they're bad. They're just, they don't really have anything. It's just they can't pass you to death. Like I said, this was going to be a playoff game where we're going to slide, we're going to shift, we're going to cover our angles, we're going to play tight because it's win or go home. So you're going to show up and you're going to go for it. And then as momentum takes you or the game takes you, you know, you're going to either gain energy or be like, God, we just can't keep up with them. But I think the courage knew, okay, now we get it to here. We used to give it to Caroline. Like, now what do we do? And I don't think it was because they think Tyler Lucy's the best dribbler. It's just that in the end there, Caroline had slid to the right.
Yeah.
So they were getting used to playing out to that right side. Then Caroline would take you on to dribble one-on-one. Earlier in the year, Caroline was finding herself out on the left. I personally think she should float. She should be a player that's allowed to float. Almost like a false nine is how I would start her, but then I would let her float, and then I would play with two forwards up top, which they can, based on the game, do we want them to spread? Do we want them to stay connected centrally? We can do what we want to do with them, but it'll all be based on where we think Caroline is best in attacking the back line of the other opponent that we have.
Yeah.
But like I said, the girls up top for Gotham will always give the courage defenders if they are the same defenders, because Williams and Fox, and I don't think they're bad defenders per se, but they are attacking defenders. So they know that they're on their best game when they're part of the attack. So they're constantly looking to cheat and get forward. We said their two center backs were the problem. The one goal comes from, I think I even said Lynn Williams is going to have that big sister over Kurtz, and she steals the ball from her, plays her in, they get their second goal. So, like, I just think that the forward line for Gotham was had much more of an ability to get at the back line of the courage and the courage without Caroline, their forwards. I mean, like, even when they made their subs, I think we said, like, we know what you're bringing off the bench. When they brought in the Danish girls, I was watching the game with my wife and she said, is that a good play? And I was like, it might work, but they're just going to now start lofting balls up to them, and they're hold-up players, and they're not really getting up the pitch anyway. So I said, I feel like they're just going to lose all the momentum of this game, and they're actually going to give Gotham a chance to take a breath here and there, where before they kind of weren't able to, because Bodie's she's just a nuisance up there. She's just constantly pressuring. So I just thought the way this game is played out was exactly how I thought it was, especially when we said we didn't know about Caroline's injury, and we'd have to wait on that and see what that was all about. But without Caroline, they're a team that will not win many games.
Without Caroline,
Truly.
I feel like is the biggest question heading into 2024. There was those rumors post World Cup. Is Caroline leaving the Courage, or is she going to stay? Obviously, she stayed to finish out this NWSL season, but there's no guarantee going forward. And, if Caroline does decide to leave, Nahas is going to have to replace that. And that's very obvious. And how does he do that? Does he do that within continuing to shift his system? We saw it be successful this year. Or is he going to be looking for a certain draft pick? I don't know. Those are small things that they'll have to figure out on their own. But
sorry
no,
sorry for laughing. It's in my head thinking Sean. I'm in North Carolina, so like you said, will he change his system? And I was just laughing because all I can see is we did it our way. Like, if you live here, like, it's just all up in our face. Like, we played our way. We never changed our way. Blah, 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 blah. Like, your way worked. It worked. I'm not saying it didn't work, but, like, even the stuff they keep saying, like, oh, everybody picked us to come in last. Everybody picked us to come in second to last. Everybody, like, that's sports. That's what we do. Like, even you as players, you probably have a team. I don't know, Sullivan, are you a Man United fan? Where did you probably like, oh, I think we'll make top four. I don't know if we'll win the EPL. Like, that's what you do as fans. You look at what you have. You look at the talent level. You look at who's coaching. You look at this. And, like, to be like, it almost seemed like at the end, based on the commercials and stuff here and all the things that people are saying, is like, were you playing to win the championship or just playing to prove all the critics wrong? Like, just who cares about the critics? Like, there's always going to be critics. Just play the game and play. Like, be happy that this is the system and it works and you all enjoy it and you all like playing it. And that's, who cares what the outside world really says? You know what I mean? Like, the true Courage fan loves the team, loves the way you play. always like they probably had doubts, but it's your team.
Yeah.
I'm a Bears fan. Every year before the Bears season starts, I'm always like, we got a chance this year. Listen, I know we're going to be terrible. We're the Bears.
Mhm.
I know it. But you believe in your team, you love your team, and then it's bad. And then you're like, even through the season now, you're going, and I'm like, well, if the Bears lose every game and Carolina loses every game, we'll probably get the number one pick and we'll get Caleb Williams. Like, we always think on the positive, a true fan of their team. And to me, is like, all they've done doing is everybody said we were bad. Everybody said we weren't going to be good. Like, get over it. You had a great year. You were a team. You played for each other. Get on with it. Stop complaining that people picked you to play bad. Who cares? That's part of the game.
Yeah, a little bit of life
I'm
too.
sorry. It's all up in my face every day. I
No,
can't take it.
express your feelings, Scotty. That's what we're here for. That's what everyone comes to
I'm
the show
trying
for.
to.
But anywho, yeah. So for North Carolina, I think, there's still obviously some holes within that system that they'll have to figure out next season. And the good thing for Nahas and his side is a lot of the players that they had this year were rookies or young within their NWSL career. And now they'll have a little bit more experience. But kudos to Gotham. I think Juan Carlos Amorós has done a great job with this Gotham side. He's stayed so patient. You could tell that the players trust him. I brought up Delaney Sheehan earlier in the show. I think giving her those opportunities has changed things around for Gotham. And Yasmin Ryan, you're a huge fan of her. I've always been a big fan of her. She started off as, I think, like a 10, 20-minute player for Portland her first few years. She gets traded over to Gotham this year, and she's electric. Sometimes players need those years to grow, but I think she's going to be so dangerous with Esther and with Lynn Williams and Purse for a lot of years to come. And obviously, the way that Megan Rapinoe impacts this Reign team, Allie Krieger does the same thing for Gotham. There's a lot of respect for her. And to get her into that semifinal, to get her an NWSL championship win is extremely important to them. And you can see that. You can feel that in their energy, what they post on social media, the post-game celebrations for her, I think is just indicative of that. So kudos to Gotham. They'll travel to Portland on Sunday of November 5th. So the following Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time to wrap up the semifinal games.
I do believe, like I said, I think anybody, if I had to pick two teams, I would think San Diego and Portland get through. I would love to see Orlando, OL Reign and Krieger and Gotham get through just because I think that'd be a cool, oh God, that'd be intense to see them two go out playing each other in the final. But I will say this, and I think this is like even going back to the courage. I think the teams that'll continue to do good in these playoffs and have done good during the year is teams that have a great bench. And like Angel City to me, now that they've got their way, their bench is also their starters because she can mix and match that team. Whereas, like when we go and look at the Courage play, you know who's in the lineup, you know who is starting, except for maybe one single player, and that usually that player is based on an injury or something like that. It's not based on performance based in a sense. But like when I look at the Courage, like when the Courage subbed in, like Pinto's not going to change the game.
No.
What's her face up top's not going to
Wingate,
change the game.
no.
Yeah, it's not going to change. Wingate, I think, is injured, and she gives them more of like a spark, but not like she's not beating it with her ability and knowledge of the game. She just comes in and she's all fire. So like it revs the team back up. She's more of a spark. But like in the Gotham, like Gotham subbed in O'Hara. Allie Long, like look at who's coming off the bench for this team, and I think that's the key. Like OL Reign, I know she's subbing in because she was hurt, but Lavelle, like what comes in off the bench is dangerous. Could be a starter at any other team or even this team. And I think when you look at like some of the other teams, is like Houston. When I look at Houston, like once Houston has to go to their bench, they better be winning. Because if they're losing, they're probably not going to win. It's not going to affect the game. The bench is not going to make impacts on this game. And I think that's the key to the NWSL is how good is your bench? Who can we bring off the bench to then not just give us a spark by energy, but also by style of play, and we can change the game and be able to go at players. I think that's the key to the NWSL teams that are really good is their bench is way better.
Totally agree with that. And to me, like the way that Portland had been playing, that loss to Angel City, and granted, they've had that time off to sort some things out. But I think Gotham, like you see Portland, San Diego going through. I definitely see San Diego going through. Gotham, I think, could have this one just based off of how complete of a game they play. Like you mentioned, the Ali Long being a sub is a big key for them centrally. And I'm just a fan of Ryan and how she's been playing of late. I think the goalkeeper situation, like hot starting and goal, you know, just so had those three goalkeepers all season long, but that was a huge risk from Juan Carlos Amoros, and I liked it. It paid out, you know. I think she made a few stops. She didn't let the moment be too big for her, and I think you need all four lines to be consistent at this point of the season. And I don't know. I think we'll have to see how Portland kind of shows up before, you know, we give them that ability to go forward into the championship game.
I agree. They're at home. I don't like. You don't want to mess with
True.
Portland at home. They
That's
get a
true.
good fan base. They play good in front of their crowd. I'm just saying, like,
Gotham travels
it wouldn't
constantly.
surprise me if Gotham won either. I would just think, like, based on the season and quality of play throughout the year, I will say this: Gotham all year has been like riding that wire of being not just great, but like not just good. I mean, great. Like, if they win the one game, they go into the Challenge Cup and then see the Courage don't make the Challenge Cup. Like, it wasn't that the Courage necessarily easily got into the Challenge Cup playoffs. They got in because Gotham couldn't take care of their business. It was more in Gotham's hands. They didn't take care of it, and then the Courage got in, kind of a thing. So Gotham's been tinkering. They've been learning the coach. They've been learning each other. They made some changes. They got different players, and now all pro teams know you want to be clicking at the end, not in the beginning. You want to be really on all cylinders, doing what you're supposed to be doing at the end of the season. And the Gotham game is like, they look super organized against the Courage. They knew exactly what they were trying to accomplish. They knew what was going to be dangerous, who was going to be dangerous. They got their goals. They made their substitutions. Their substitutions didn't come in and throw anything off. They kept it going the right way. They solidified their back line. I just think you're right. I wouldn't be surprised. And Krieger, I think in a good terms, is she used to be able to do things and stop things physically. She was just a physical presence out there. But now, because of her experience, she's like a Sauerbraun, where she can organize and make things not even happen. So no one has to physically stop anything. You can tell that she is the leader. She is the engine of the team. And I agree. When you see them all together, they are really playing for her.
Mhm.
There is a real good friendship, camaraderie, teammates. They party with her. They everything's like the last time for everything. So they all want to be a part of it. They all have the Ali Krieger fan
Fan club.
club t-shirts they all walk in with. Like, they are really embracing the moment and doing it the right way.
Yeah, Sue Bird had a Ali Krieger fan club T-shirt on. That would be
Oh,
funny if Gotham and OL Reign advanced, if she wore that to the game. That would be hysterical. Honestly, I wouldn't put it past her. And she's a Penn
yeah.
Stater. Like, you can't not love Penn Staters. We're the best. Yeah, so that'll be fun. I'm excited. Gotham travels to Portland, OL Reign to San Diego. The playoffs have not disappointed us at all in the NWSL, whereas for MLS, they're just starting their playoffs. Decision day was a few weeks ago. I'm sorry, decision day was on Saturday, and the playoffs will start today on Wednesday, and it will be Charlotte will be playing against the Red Bulls. It'll be San Jose playing against Sporting Kansas City. That's like the weird wild card game. You know, I think it's so interesting how they're doing the playoffs. It's kind of a little bit confusing to me. I think as Americans, we don't think as smart as Europeans. Like, they're cool with the complex, play a bunch of games against each other. And I think, American sports, you play a game, a quarterfinal, semifinal, final. And I think MLS should kind of move in that direction just because they're trying to attract American fans. And in order to get people to come onto your side, just do what they're already doing, do what they're already following. What have you seen? I mean, regular season in, St. Louis wins the Western Conference, Cincinnati wins the Eastern Conference. Extremely impressive what St. Louis City has been able to do in their first season. But yeah, any overall thoughts before we head into the MLS playoffs?
Overall, no, I think it almost seems too long, but I think that's because, like, I'm sad that the NWSL playoffs are here, not because the playoffs are here, because I know it's getting close to the end. I'm not sad that the MLS is almost over. Like, I just think that there's four teams in the playoffs, two in the East and two in the West. They have losing records. Hey, I don't want to see that. I don't want a team to make the playoffs that will, I get it. Like the Giants, I think, did it that one year. They beat the Patriots and then won the Super Bowl. I think they had a losing record going in, or they were 500, whatever they were. I mean, I don't think they deserve to get in. You didn't deserve to get in. Now I got 9 teams, 18 total teams. 4 of the 18 have a losing record. Like, and then I got to watch. The first round seems more fun. It's a win and go home. You win or you go home. Then it goes to the best of 3. Like, so I got to watch 2 crappy games.
Well, it's just too much to follow. Like, not only are NWSL playoffs happening, but college football is happening. The NFL is happening. We have college hoops that's about to kick off. I'm sure a few other sports is.
I mean, just take the soccer people. You have the EPL. You have
Yeah, you got
Champions
Champions
League.
League, all of this stuff.
You have
Like,
better soccer. You have better soccer to watch.
yeah,
Like, that's my thing. Is like, if this was like Liverpool versus Real Madrid, I'll take a 5-game series.
right.
But I'm not going to get that quality soccer. And then we're going to go into, and then it starts to get cold, and the game changes, and it becomes more kick and run, which you have to do in the cold weather. Then we play on turf, so some of the turf's going to be too fast to play on the ground. Like, I understand that you have to adapt to it, but like, I got to watch it, and I don't want to watch bad soccer because Charlotte or the Red Bull are going to go through, and both have a losing record. And then you're hoping they get knocked out, but you got to watch them twice because it's the best of 3. So you're going to have to watch one of these teams go and play Cincinnati, but you're going to have to watch them do it again. And if one of them somehow squeaks a win, then they're going to play for the tie. Then they're going to make the game super ugly because they got their one win. I just think you're right. Let's look at it. Let's make it more sudden death. Sudden death was always great. I mean, that's one of my big complaints about soccer is they took away the golden goal. I don't know why it was so taken away. It was so awesome. It was so much fun. The game got kind of chaotic because, man, at any moment we could be done. And I think that's what's good about playoffs. It's not like hockey where I want a game best of 7 because there's going to be 27 fights in the playoffs. And I want to see these guys match up the next game because so-and-so and so-and-so are going to get into a fight again. And then this guy's going to stick up for this guy. And then hockey gets really crazy in the playoffs because of their rules. I don't think we're going to keep getting good brands of soccer, but we're going to have to keep okay, who's winning? Do we have another game? And now we're waiting, and this team is waiting because this team had to go to the final 3. They had to do all 3 games, and this team already got taken care of in the second game. So now a team's waiting a week, getting rest. I just think it's too much for us. Let's go 1 game, show up, lose. Listen, that gives Charlotte a chance against Cincinnati. Charlotte's got to go in and play them twice. I understand. Are we just trying to? Well, this makes the best teams usually get through. I think I like it that be the best team every day. Show up every day. You don't show up and you're out, then who cares that you won the Shield, Cincinnati? Who cares?
Yeah.
Nobody cares that you won it. You got to win this one too.
Well, I think a month and a half of playoffs is indicative right there. That's just too much. Way too much. We don't need that.
I'll say this. If Miami made it, maybe then I
have a different feeling. But would Messi play in all of those games? No, he would not.
Well, I said it before. I mean, I give the guy credit, man. I did not see him playing on turf. I said if I was the coach, I wouldn't have played him. If I was the league, I wouldn't have played him. Not the last game of a season that he cannot even make the playoffs. I didn't think anything good could come from it, except a lot of people here went to the game and were super psyched that they got to see Messi live, which is totally cool. I love that. But I give the guy credit, man. He played. He showed up. He played a full 90. He started. And that's coming back from international play. So, man, he got more. I already liked him a lot as a player, and I respect him, but he got more respect from me for doing it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I also think he might, I don't know if he's setting a standard to his sons or just to the fans in general, but it's kind of saying, I'm not too big for anything. I think that's the message I kind of got from it. It's look, you're never too cool. You're never going to be better than anybody. So, yeah,
you got to play on it. I guess I got to play on it.
Yeah,
and I haven't seen that he complained about it or anything either.
No, no, he hasn't. I think Messi does a good job of kind of not talking at all, talking when he needs to. He wants to hear from the fans, but I think that was such a great message, and I hope he continues to be a part. I know his deal is kind of always being a part of Inter Miami, but I hope he's really genuinely always a part of what is happening here in the MLS, because he's certainly changed the game here in the States. And that's what we need is more of it. And I'm so pissed at myself. I didn't think he'd play either. There was a $68 ticket in the nosebleeds and I passed up on it. But I wouldn't have
Ah.
seen him anyway, like that's too far away. It wouldn't have been worth it. I'd rather wait, and see him in a different setting, but still kicking myself for that one. Have you seen the David Beckham documentary? Because we don't have too much time here.
I have not because
Okay.
everybody in my house wants to watch it, so we're gonna all watch it together.
Watch it before
But
next Tuesday. Watch it before next
I will.
Tuesday. Can
I
you make
remember
that happen?
I'm sure there's things I don't know, but there's gonna be a lot that I do because like I lived it. Like I was playing at the time. So like we're all following each other even because we all have
Yeah.
dreams that we could play for. So like I know a lot of the stuff that has transpired in his life just because I was trying to tell my daughter, she was like, David Beckham. I was like, David Beckham in his heyday, I said, was not like Messi. He was more like Taylor Swift. Like
Uh-huh.
he couldn't do anything. Like it was like mobs and mobs and mobs of people. Like, and she was like, really? And I was like, yeah, he played the whole part. He did the hair, he did the styles of the day. He did like he reminds me of like not the same attitude, but like how Iverson changed the NBA. David Beckham did that for soccer. He made it like a cultural, everything was cool about it. What kind of music do you listen to? What kind of style, fashion? It became like a huge part of society.
Mhm.
And Beckham and
Victoria.
Posh Spice and Victoria were the
Yeah.
reasons it happened. Like there was,
Oh,
so yeah, we're gonna watch it, but
okay.
we wanted to watch it all together.
And he cooks too. Like everyone on TikTok has been doing is my husband David Beckham, and I've seen these women like dancing in the kitchen with their kids and like did I marry a good one? So that's been pretty funny to watch. I haven't gotten to that point. I just started it. So I'll watch it before Tuesday too cuz I want that to be like what we wrap the show up on. And I think you're right. Like the Travis Kelsey, the Taylor Swift of it all is very similar because I listen to pop culture podcasts as well, and these girls and guys are even talking about the David Beckham documentary. And obviously, he's an extremely attractive man, always has been. And what Victoria Beckham's been able to do, what they've been able to kind of do together. And just the fact that pop culture is talking about them has so many parallels to Travis Kelsey and to Taylor Swift that I think they're going to get married. Put it on here, right here. Put it on here. I'm saying it right here. By the end of 2024, they will be married. They'll be
Ooh.
married.
And the man,
Yeah. They're
that's
33. She wants a family. She's been very clear about that. He wants a family. He's been very clear about that as well. I think there'll be an engagement after the NFL season. And I think they will be married by the end of 24 when they're 34 years old. We'll
I have
revisit this
no
one.
I have no idea about that because they just seem like they're got so much.
She
I don't
just
know.
looks so happy. Like she just looks like,
Everybody's happy in the
yeah,
beginning.
but you don't know if it's the beginning, Scotty. You don't know when they started dating.
Oh, I would think it's the beginning. When
No.
could she have done it? She's been on tour all summer, for God's sakes, making crazy money.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think there was like a few things he put out on his podcast before. I don't think she would have gone into a box and hung out with his mom if they hadn't been dating for at least a month or so.
Oh yeah, that's the beginning.
Okay. Still, I think I'm here for it. I genuinely like hope, and also too like the fact that we've got all these like young girls and women who normally and men that don't watch football are now watching football because of Taylor Swift. You just love what it's done for the sport.
NFL, God's sakes.
Yeah, and also the NFL doesn't need any more money. Maybe they should give some
Well, they just like, come on,
us.
the NFL season will end, and the first thing we'll do is turn on SportsCenter to see who's getting fired, who's getting traded. Like the NFL does a wonderful job marketing themselves.
They do.
Like, like I don't even know if it's my favorite sport to watch, but like I'm always intrigued by it
Totally.
constantly. Like,
The
what's going on? They do such a good job. Like they could go, well, it's like a 4 month season or something ridiculous, and like 8 months of the year, you're still psyched about the NFL and talking about it, and they only play for 4 months.
I think that's part of it. I think that's part of it. Like the way that NWSL only has so many teams to me is like why I'm so invested in it because it's short. It's only a certain amount of teams. I can get super invested in it, similar to the NFL. And I think the NFL does a great job of Travis Kelsey being like David Beckham in a similar way, like showing what they do off the field. So many players in the NFL have lives off the field that they show. That players in NMLS and NWSL, I think, if they show a little bit more, could have some things in common with fans that would get them to be bigger fans. But we'll see. I don't know. That is it for this week's show. Next week, we're going to dive a little bit more into the coaching changes, what we think will happen, a little bit more into the semifinals, previewing those. And of course, we'll talk about the David Beckham documentary as well. So you guys should be listening too, or watching, I should say. So make sure to follow us on SFTP Pod. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can watch us on YouTube every single week. And we will be back next Wednesday for more NWSL and MLS content.
Have a great week.